Good morning. If I could have everyone please find your way to a place to sit. Just find a spot that's comfortable for you and take up residence for a while. Waiting just a second because we're going to stand up and I don't want people to trip. Please stand with me now for the presentation of the colors. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
You may be seated. I'm going to ask that our VIPs come up to the stage at this time. Well, good morning, everyone. It's good to see you all again. You may remember me from last year. I auditioned for this role on a stage very similar to this in another part of California, and I'm very happy to be here as your president for the year 2011. I'd like to begin by thanking the Mira Mesa High School Air Force Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps, led by Master Sergeant James Manson and the Mira Mesa High School Choral Club for making our opening ceremony so special. Join me in a round of applause for those folks. Well, on behalf of the CAPPS Board of Directors, our conference exhibitors, and sponsors, I'd like to thank you for attending the conference this year. We appreciate your presence here today, and I'm confident that you're going to look back on this conference as one where you learned some new things, reconnected with some colleagues, met some new friends, and had a memorable time. 2011 will go down in history as one of our sector's most challenging years. Our state continues to be financially stressed and is experiencing very high unemployment rates, about 12.2% statewide, and in the interior of the state where I live, near Fresno, California, some areas on the west side of the county have had unemployment as high as 40% at times. California has gone from first in the nation to last in creating new businesses in just a period of 2 years. As a sector, we've experienced unrelenting negative publicity. At times, it's been the product of deliberately planned campaigns by politicians on both the state and national level. And I think at other times, it's a result of our own missteps as institutions. And this has continued to erode our precious reservoir of goodwill with the public and our elected representatives. In California, our institutions have found that enrollments are generally lower and operating costs are higher as a result of implementing extensive new federal and state regulations and some new accrediting requirements as well that are the result of these new regulations. States statutorily created annual fees for main institutions capped at around $25,000 a year and have impacted covered institutions hard, and the traditional remedy of raising tuition to cover these costs and the increased cost to cover these costs, increased cost carries increased risk when we factor in the gainful employment test and default rates. At the same time, our institutions are required to maintain sufficient financial reserves to pay their bills on a timely basis. Successfully owning and operating a private post-secondary institution, particularly in California, has never been more challenging. And this year, many institutions are finding themselves at a tipping point. So you might ask, Rick, where's the Prozac? Well, my advice would be, before you turn to pharmaceuticals to deal with these problems, that you should consider the following, because there is some good news. California has about 38 million people, many of which are in great need of post-secondary education, and they need training. They need this because our public post-secondary institutions have failed, and our K-12 system isn't doing the job. California sits on the Pacific Rim, and it's a logical landing place for thousands of international students seeking higher education. The California community colleges, while obviously the institutions of choice for the national administration, are under great stress, programmatically, financially, and politically. They're having a hard time preparing to do this job. Long term, they are not the final education destination for millions of our state's residents. Public higher education will have to make major changes to maintain its national ranking, and without continuing large tuition hikes, there is considerable doubt that they have the political will or the power necessary to make such changes. As institutions and as an association, we have stood firm against the tide for almost 3 decades. Most importantly, we are still here. We know what it demands to stand up for the rights of students to choose when it comes to higher education. We have fought the good fight, and we will continue to do so. Now, I realize I'm preaching to the choir today. The institutions that are here attending the conference are well aware of the new reporting systems based on regulations, many of which will become final in the state over the next week or so. You're aware of the changing federal and accreditor requirements that will necessitate changes in your administration and education systems. Simply put, you get it. And you're here this week to make sure that your institutions will perform well, both regulatorily and educationally. I'm fully confident that your institutions will adapt as necessary and stay the course and improve your performance on a continual basis. Those institutions that really need to hear my message are not here today. Some of them no longer exist because they made the fatal mistake of making decisions in a vacuum with wrong information. Some of them were large, many of them were small, but they all shared the same isolationist tendency that made them unable to correct their errors. It often becomes a case of too little good information too late. It's one of our stated goals as an association to provide advice to our members that will not send them down this path. A careful review of our conference program will demonstrate what we believe are a number of institutional performance areas that can be strengthened through attending the workshops at our conference. The early 2000s were the most explosive period in the history of our sector in California for growth. At one point, there were over 3,000 approved and registered institutions. That number today is 1,700, which is a 44% reduction. And we estimate that a number of other California institutions will close or will be closed in the next several years. We know that multi-year members of our association have less than a 2% chance of closing versus the nearly 50% chance that non-member schools have experienced over time. We believe that because we keep our institutions appraised of current issues and ways to resolve those issues through specific advice by our staff experts, our member institutions will continue to be the best informed and best equipped to succeed. We've designed our annual conference this year to provide both information on these topics and exposure to the latest in products and services from our exhibitors and sponsors. It wouldn't be possible for us to bring you an outstanding conference like this one without the help of these folks. Excuse me. So I'd ask that you take a few moments during the conference and go down to the exhibit hall, which is just down the hill. And if you need a ride down, we've got some golf carts that can help you with that. I usually need the ride up. Some of you are probably in better shape than I am. But take the time to go down and see what they have there, because believe me, they're as tuned in to all of these changes that we've been going through as you are. And they've been working to develop products and services that can help you address these things. This is a fast-changing and competitive sector that we operate in, so we have to keep up with the latest in innovations, or we're going to risk falling behind. Today, I'd like to take a few moments as we begin this session to thank our grand sponsor, Pearson Education. This is the second year in a row that Pearson has been our grand sponsor, which is a wonderful testament to the long-standing relationship that the association and its membership have had with Pearson. I'd like to thank Debbie Ogilvie and the rest of the dynamic Pearson team for their efforts to make this a great conference that it has become. And with that, I'd like to ask Debbie to come up to the podium. You hear, Debbie? No? Someone's coming up. Come on up. There you go. On behalf of the association, I will present you this award for grand sponsor.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. She blew a chance to have her picture taken, huh? She was on the run. Well, wait till Debbie sees that picture. Won't she be sorry she wasn't here today? Well, the theme of our conference is Waves of Change and Oceans of Opportunity. We selected this theme to remind ourselves that in the midst of challenges we face, we still have opportunity and the ability to achieve great success. We are in a challenging time. The seas are rough, and we've been knocked about by some big waves. But our institutions are built with the ability to withstand the heavy weather. And I'm confident with the strong leadership that you will provide as a sector, we will once again be recognized for the many positive contributions that we make to this great state of ours. Thank you.